It keeps you hooked. And exactly as I mentioned, it doesn't follow a chronological order. It jumps between times and perspectives. So you can have one linear storytelling, non-linear storytelling, quest, perspective all together in a single story, or you can pick one type of narrative and explore your own story with that. Why is he killing him? He's just a random guy who was in the bar fighting with another politician, and then randomly he's going to kill him, and this guy is also knows him for some reason, which kept me guessing on what is this guy's role in this film. So there are types of narratives. So when it comes to storytelling, you should be not just a storyteller but also a narrator. And the reason for choosing this image is, what film is this? Why did I choose this image then? Guess, it's so obvious. What is Edward Norton's name in the movie? Yeah, exactly. Give him a round of applause. He is the narrator of the story. So when it comes to storytelling, the most important thing that you need to understand is you are writing it to narrate it. You are writing it to present. You are writing it for an audience. So remember these points. So there are types of narratives which is very commonly used in all sorts of stories, because the most common 4 types are these things. These will be used in almost every single storyline. Like any story you pick, it will come under these 4 things. So as you already know, linear narratives are there, non-linear, and quest and perspective. The only new thing that you might find new is quest, if I'm not wrong. Because quest narrative, it has been so overlooked that it is not known throughout the world. So when I wanted to write stories and wanted to develop my own comic, I came through this 4 types of narratives, and I have included all these narratives in my story. So you can have one linear storytelling, non-linear storytelling, quest, perspective all together in a single story, or you can pick one type of narrative and explore your own story with that. Okay, let's start with linear narrative. So what is a linear narrative? Okay, so story or chronological order progress it is called the linear narrative. What is linear in max? Straight line, right? What is a line? The distance between 2 points. It could be anywhere, but it travels to one point from another point without having to meet another point in between. So that's what is a linear narrative. So it starts from a beginning, and it has a beginning, and it will only go towards an ending without confusing the audience. It may confuse the audience, but the most important thing about this linear narrative is it goes in a chronological order. It doesn't play with times, it doesn't play with perspectives, it only goes from one point of view to another, one point of a story to another point of the story. It is one of my favorite movies, and it has one of the most recently seen linear storytelling without confusing me. Well, there is a twist in the end, but that is just a reveal and not a flashback, so it comes under that. Okay, so basically linear storytelling, again, it starts and it ends. There is no in-betweens. As in, there is an in-between story, but if it starts, it will end. That is a linear storytelling. Okay, what is non-linear storytelling? Someone? Linear is complete opposite. This doesn't follow a chronological order. This doesn't have a method of following its own story. It confuses. It draws the audience to think. It makes the audience think what is happening. But you have to figure it out as an audience because it is interesting. It keeps you hooked. And exactly as I mentioned, it doesn't follow a chronological order. It jumps between times and perspectives. So, and places and incidents. So what is an example of this you can say right now, like right away? Yeah, tell me. Yeah, AOT, yes. I. Maharaja is a great example. I will explain it with Maharaja because it's easier. Everyone has seen the film, right? Maharaja. So Maharaja film, it starts and it has a lot of twists, and then you get confused on what is happening, who is Lakshmi, is it actually a Kupatoti? You get confused over a lot of things, but it all makes sense towards the end. And the character's perspective keeps on changing that you can't understand if it's happening in the present or the past. I had a really confused state of mind when Vijay Sethupathi was going to the godown to kill that guy. Why is he killing him? He's just a random guy who was in the bar fighting with another politician, and then randomly he's going to kill him, and this guy is also knows him for some reason, which kept me guessing on what is this guy's role in this film. It keeps you engaging, it keeps you guessing, and it reveals at the end, and then it makes an impact in your mind. So this type of storytelling is called non-linear. And another example that I can give you easily is, how many of you have seen Memento? Christopher Nolan film. You have to watch it. It's one of the greatest non-linear storytellings I have seen in my life. And okay, fine. In the photo, how many people have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. No one has seen it? Okay, fine. I thought you guys would have seen this because it's a Gen Z trauma film, apparently. Horror movies, as they mentioned. So this film also handles this really good. It is a sci-fi film, psychological horror in Solala. But it's a sci-fi film where the guy wants to forget her. They were dating, he wants to forget her, but he can't. So he goes to this some place where they erase memories through dreams. It's done by Mark Ruffalo, like the guy who erases the dreams, and he messes up something in between the story, which causes him to have his conscience while he is in his dream. And he doesn't want to forget her. So this travels between timelines that is so confusing that you can't understand what is happening in the story, but towards the end, you will still keep guessing what happened in the entire story, but you will be left out with an impact. That is the story's point. So non-linear narratives, the third point, complexity and risk factors. It is so complex to write a non-linear story. That makes sense. It is so tough, and it has a high risk value, because if you mess up any part of the story, you tend to mess up the entire story. Like there may be a lot of loop-ins in your own story when you are doing it with this one, and it messes you up, and you can't find a closure to one character who was important in the first half, but you forgot about that guy in the second half because he was not important enough in the second half. That leaves the audience feel like, what happened to that character? Like for example, Thug Life எத்தனை பேர் பார்த்திருக்கீங்க? எல்லாரும் பார்த்திருக்கணும் actually. Okay, fine. Thug Lifeல வந்து who is the most useless character in the movie? If you in your perspective. Well, he's the protagonist, so he's not useless. You can say that, but she is the driving force of the entire film. Exactly. Exactly. He was there, he did his own job, and then he left. I don't know what happened to him in the end. Well, the only thing that Ashok Selvan was important for the film is his wife. But in the end, it all made complete mess. I couldn't understand what was going on. And it tends to have this factor where you don't understand the film's end. When you have some story and you don't understand the end yourself as a writer, that's when you actually mess up a story. So remember this, when you are following a non-linear, please do take care of every single character in your film, and most importantly, work for the end that you desire and not the end that you came to be. புரியுதா சொல்றது? அதாவது என்ன சொல்றேன்னா, சிம்பிளா சொல்லணும்னா தமிழ்ல சொல்றேன். ஸோ நீங்க பிடிச்ச எண்டிங்க்கு போறதோட நீங்க நினைச்ச எண்டிங்க்கு போறது தான் பெட்டர். That is, you have to work towards an ending without messing the entire story, changing a lot of things. Okay, next is வந்து நான் சொன்ன மாதிரி இது ஒரு புது விதமான ஸ்டோரி டெல்லிங் மெத்தட், நரேட்டிவ் மெத்தட் that I came to know, which I was watching in my entire life, and mentions வந்திருக்கு, Quest. So someone read this.
Journey to achieve a specific goal, challenge, obstacles, traits, character, they think about it.
Okay, so What is this film in the background? What is a superhero film to you? All of the superhero films come under this quest, and all of the most of the fantasy films come under this. It's so easy to write about this genre, but it is also hard that you keep it engaging. So basically One Piece mention பண்ணாங்க இல்லையா? What is the story of One Piece ன்னு கேட்டிங்கன்னா, to find the One Piece. That's the end objective. That's the quest. That's the challenge that they are on. And it's the journey that is the story. அதான் சொல்லுவாங்கல்ல சில எண்டிங்கில், there is a meme, famous meme, right? Maybe the friends we made along the something ஒரு என்னது? Anyone remind me? The journey was worth more than the ending. அந்த ஒரு meme இருக்கும். I don't remember that. Okay, fine. So the most important thing in a quest narrative that you need to follow is have obstacles in the character story, have trials, challenges, and most importantly character development. If a character starts off weak and dumb and he keeps on being the same person throughout the end, no one is going to like that character. No one is going to even notice that character because they will keep it in mind that இவன் நடக்கிறான், இவன் சும்மா இருக்கிறான் இந்த ஸ்டோரியில் அவ்வளோதான் அப்படின்ற மாதிரி. He will be a side character who is uninteresting at all, who won't excite anyone because உங்களுக்கு வந்து தெரியாது நீங்கள் எழுதுகிற கேரக்டர் வந்து யாருக்கு எக்ஸைட் பண்ணும், யாருக்கு பிடிக்கும் அப்படிங்கிறது. நீங்கள் உங்களுக்கு பிடிச்ச கேரக்டர்ஸை வச்சு மட்டுமே ஒரு ஸ்டோரி பண்ணலாம், பட் யூ ஆர் நாட் அலோன். யூ ஆர் நெவர் அலோன் வென் யூ ஆர் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரிங் ஸ்டோரிஸ் அண்ட் எக்ஸ்ப்ளோரிங் மீடியா. There will be any niche that you need to understand, but the most important thing is almost every character who is important to your storytelling, who is interacting with the main characters or the main cast, should have some or a little bit development because that helps a lot to like the character and the story. Mahaviran, yeah, great. Mahaviran, yeah, perfect example actually. Mahaviran, yeah, யமனை கொல்லணும், அப்போ தான் வந்து அவன் ஊர் மக்களையும் அவன் மாளிகையும் காப்பாற்ற முடியும். Mahaviran is actually one of the greatest story methods that has been elaborated in Tamil cinema in a really long while. It's one of my favorite films again. I may keep repeating this because I like a lot of things. But Mahaviranல பார்த்தீங்கன்னா the quest is explained in the first 5 minutes of the story. And then it has a lot of fantastical elements. The hero has a lot of trials. He is a Kora first. அதுக்கப்புறமா he has a lot of family problems. He doesn't know how to fight, but everything he does he tends to mess it up. But then he tends to move on and he tends to overcome all those obstacles, and in the end without the voice he fights, right? So அது வந்து ஒரு சூப்பரான கேரக்டர் டெவலப்மெண்ட். நீங்கள் கடைசியில் பார்க்கும்போது இந்த சிவகார்த்திகேயன் வந்து இந்த வீரன் கீழே குனிஞ்சு தப்பிச்சான்னு சொல்லும் போது நேராக ஓடிப்போம். அதை பார்க்கும்போது எவ்வளோ எக்ஸைட்டிங்காக இருந்துச்சு. அதெல்லாம் தேட்டர் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். That's when you create a moment for a character development. So throughout the story you should have obstacles, trials and character developments, but the most important thing about this quest narrative is you have an end goal which you won't scatter around. Like அதை சுற்றி வளைச்சி எங்கே வேணால் போகலாம், ஆனால் கடைசியில் அது அதில் தான் முடியணும். அதை ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. Okay, so yeah, every superhero movie comes under this almost. Example, Superman எடுத்துக்கோங்க. Lex Luthor, such a great hater in my opinion. But in the end Lex Luthor வந்து உள்ளே போனதுக்கு அப்புறமா ஸ்டோரி முடியல. You have it anymore. But the original quest of this was to stop the black hole and to defeat Lex and save people. Right? Okay, perspective narratives. Someone read it. Come on, you read it.
Could be only one part of the story. Great method and
You missed the first point.
sorry, POV.
Yeah.
Could be only one part of the story. Great method and easier to write.
Okay, yeah, you can be. So இதுக்கு நான் சொல்லவே வேணாம். It's self-explanatory. What is a perspective story narrative? It's set from a lens of a character or anyone. It could be anyone, narrator, one character. Like she told, no, Spider-Verse is completely about Miles. It is about Miles Morales, the kid from Brooklyn who wants to become Spider-Man, who becomes Spider-Man by mistake, and he needs to survive as Spider-Man. It is completely about Miles and his story. You don't know about Gwen's story completely, but there are circumstances where you can have more than one story, one perspective of the story being told. So another example of this film is this narrative is again Fight Club. You don't know it because it is told by the narrator, and you get to know that when the narrator gets to know about Tyler Durden is him, right? So Fight Club is actually one of the most influential pieces of media according to a lot of directors, and it explores this narrative really easily. And how many of you know this film? Yeah, how many of you know this film? Okay, so the entire film is told in his perspective, never in her perspective. You don't know what she gone through. You know a little bit because she says something, but the entire story is concentrated on this guy and what he goes through and what he feels and what he wants. It's okay. So another thing which is important is in perspective there is a lot of methods when it comes to perspective. There are three perspectives: first person, second person, third person. First person narrative, you will be seeing the entire film through the protagonist's point of view. Second person, it can be the perspective of another person who is narrating. KGF is a second perspective, okay? And then third point perspective is when it is done by a narrator or a third person who is not involved in the story at all, but is reciting the story to you, okay? So it's easier to write because you can write anything you want, because this is the one, you are going to focus on one character most of the time and you are going to build a world around him. So when it comes to this, you can have a lot of loop-ins, but you can explain that I am only explaining this guy's perspective and not others, because you will be traveling through this screen. So the most important thing when it comes to perspective is whose perspective you are writing the story from. Audience. Say it with me. Audience. Audience. Why is it important for to have an audience? Anyone? He takes films, he writes stories because he wants to. He doesn't need to search for a target audience because he knows, he is confident in a story and it is a good story and anyone can watch it. Anyone can watch it. You like it or not, that's a different story, but anyone can watch his films.